Hi, this is Katie Sweetman, and this is your weekly look at the astrology of November 4th through 10th, 2019. I'm laughing because the Facebook Live feed cut out, and maybe I had the audacity to invoke the Mercury retrograde gods, but I think we were having a really great conversation about Mercury retrograde before it cut out. But what I was saying was that Mercury gives us a chance to go back and look at how we're using Mercury. And Mercury is just an energy. We call it Mercury. We point to Mercury in the sky and we say that's Mercury. That means it's appearing to go backwards in the sky, retrograde. But Mercury is really just an energy. And that energy is a stand-in for communication, thinking, learning, communication, talking. And when Mercury is in retrograde, it's not business as usual. We have to take awareness and consciousness of how you're using Mercury. So yeah, Mercury was decided just to kind of, cut the connection. So this week I was starting to say that we have two big aspects in the astrology this week, and one of them is a big one of them is kind of a quiet one, but I think that they both are working together in their own way. And this week we have what's called Mars square Pluto. If you remember, at least if you've been reading some of my astrology posts or even listening to these astrology videos, Mars has been in Libra since October 4th. And when the sun was in Libra, when we were in Libra season, we had to deal with a lot of relationship issues. And we had Mars activating eclipse degrees. We had the new and the full moons activating eclipse degrees and activating the nodes. And that's why October was a little bit, let's say, over the top for some people. Not everybody, of course. But now, Mars is still in Libra, but the sun's in Scorpio. So a lot of the work that we're doing is happening behind the scenes. It's not so front and center, but Mars, it's coming up to what's called a square to Pluto tomorrow. And in sort of a traditional astrology view, it's an intense aspect. I'm not going to lie. It has this almost like volcanic quality to it. And if you have Mars square Pluto in your chart, you might be somebody that has a lot of energy. It needs a direction. Mars is command, it's power, it's action, it's motivation. And Pluto, it kind of gives you it in spades. There's a sense of a wealth and abundance to Pluto, but also the shadow side. So I think that right now we also have to look at the shadow side of Mars. How are we exerting our power? It's easy to get into relationships where maybe we feel a little railroaded or where we're not having a chance to assert ourselves, Mars square Pluto. But I think that when you kind of turn this aspect into another perspective, I think it's an aspect where we can go into the week and we're really feeling the fuel and the fire of Mars square Pluto to kind of really push through something. There's a sense of, Mars and Pluto, it's very, like I said, all volcanic and alchemical, and it transforms. So it's the type of energy that wants to go through roadblocks, just bust them up. So, that's why I really want us to kind of look at Mars square Pluto in a couple of different ways. Again, there's this deeper thing that's happening around power and control, and especially power and control in relationships and communication. But also, if you're really trying to accomplish something this week, it's really giving you that fuel and fire. So that's Mars square Pluto. As an aside, when I see it in a client chart, I usually ask them, what's their physical exercise like, because it's a very physical aspect. It needs to run, it needs to climb, it needs to do things. And when it's not, it can build up and it, it kind of can come out in ways that are not so helpful. So if you do have Mars square Pluto or any Mars Pluto aspect, give it an outlet, do something physical, lift weights, go for a run, go for a walk, or really kind of put that iron willpower towards something positive in your life. You often see Mars Pluto aspects in the charts of athletes. So you really need that drive and competition to be an athlete, of course. So I'm just checking in with the comments. I see Belgium and Ireland and Canada all kind of staying up with me for this live feed. We're doing this one a little bit early because I have to be someplace later. But, you know, I say this before, but I do enjoy having these weekly updates with you all to kind of have this FaceTime. I was at a networking event on Friday. And, you know, when you're in a room of people that are mostly, let's say, lawyers and in finance and in insurance, and then you're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm an astrologer. It definitely can be a little bit of an interesting conversation. But what I said to somebody on Friday is that a lot of what I do is educating people about what I do, because a lot of times we don't understand how powerful a tool astrology can be in our life, how powerful a language it can be. And even after 5,000 or more years, it's still a very important and relevant tool to our modern lives. It helps us to understand things that we normally wouldn't have language for. And I also tell people that it's about understanding your own personal clocks. So this is why when I write horoscopes, and also if you have not seen or read your November 2019 horoscopes, do click on the link in the show notes. That will take you to my November horoscopes. But that's why I say read for your sun and your rising sign, because your life runs on these two clocks, unless you're born at sunrise. That's another conversation, but your life runs on these two clocks. And you need to kind of see how these two clocks are interplaying and where the different hands, aka the planets, are pointing to. So I'm a Scorpio, but I have Sagittarius rising. So I have these Scorpio clock and the Sagittarius clock. And it tells me what time it is in my life. And that's why you can get a lot of important information from a sun sign horoscope the same way you can get it if you read your rising sign. So that's just my aside, but I will say that, you know, when I go to these events or I meet people and I'm interacting and describing what I do, I just say, you know, it's how powerful and useful and valuable is it to know what time it is in your life. You know, is it time to rest? Is it time to take action? And of course, the type of astrology I do is to help people, you know, kind of see themselves in a different way, and maybe, let's say, be a bit of a midwife in a way, and you know, their lives and their experiences, and to, you know, use this powerful language of astrology to describe what's going on in your life right now. I see somebody's in also Colombia. Yeah, we got people from all around the world watching live. And if you're watching on the replay, hello again. This is the second try at this video because I guess I need to leave some offerings to the Mercury retrograde gods. But as I was saying in the first take of this video, I managed to figure out my microphone problems. Anyway, but what I was saying earlier is that these two big aspects this week, Mars square Pluto, and this other one, Saturn sextile Neptune. I don't really normally talk about sextiles just because they're so quiet. They're like the energy of Venus. It's the concierge who kind of makes sure everything might go a little more smoothly in the background. There's a sense of hospitality and friendliness and connection with sextiles. But I think when you take this Saturn sextile Neptune aspect with the Mars square Pluto, I think that whatever power and force we're using to forge things this week, and maybe even to push through some blocks, you've got this quiet Saturn sextile Neptune, and Saturn is about manifestation. It's about the real world. Neptune is about the world that we can't see. So, you know, it's my idea that if we can really visualize and think about and align what we want to bring into our physical world, using that Mars square Pluto energy to kind of make it happen. So that's kind of my idea about that. This is going to be Saturn's last sextile with Neptune, because by next March, Saturn's going to start to dip into Aquarius. So that's next year's astrology. That's kind of a good segue for an event that I'm doing. If you're here in New York City, Manhattan, Brooklyn, etc., I'm doing a in-person event on November 12th. So this one is on the astrology of 2020. I'm gonna be looking at what's the big the overall picture for the astrology of next year. What are our big themes, our big takeaways, and then of course, what does that mean for each sign? It's going to be in an intimate environment with views, nighttime views of the city. A good friend of mine, Marina Becker from Cetera Minerals, is also going to be bringing some crystals to sell. There's going to be beverages and snacks. It's a Taurus full moon. There has to be beverages and snacks. So I do know some of my clients here in New York are already joining me. So I hope that you can join me too. And for those who are not in New York, and there has been quite the roll call, from Serbia to Belgium to Colombia on today's live feed. I am doing a webinar. Details haven't been quite figured out on the astrology of 2020. So you can still get that information for yourself. I'm looking at doing it in December. There's always that risk of doing something towards the middle of December. You start to get into that, that kind of black hole around the end of the year and the holiday season. So, the question is, do I wait to the very beginning of January to do this webinar, or do I do it right before the holiday season? So, not sure yet. Stay tuned. So those are pretty much the big points this week. I see Janet, she's going to be in New Jersey on the 12th. She would love to come. Come. That'd be great. It's going to be in Midtown Manhattan on the west side. So, something else that I talked about in my update today is we are coming up to the first quarter moon today. So this is like the first week after we had the Scorpio new moon on October 27th. And I point this out because the Scorpio new moon, it had that direct opposition to Uranus. So the idea is that when we step into a new moon, it creates this energetic container that shapes and influences our experiences over the coming 4 weeks. And so that's why we'll have, let's say, a Libra new moon that really puts this kind of lens on relationships and connections, Libra things. And then now we're in Scorpio season, Scorpio new moon. So, the things that we're experiencing and feeling are through this lens of Scorpio. And if we're in this, to kind of create a metaphor, it's like a stage. we've kind of created a set that has a certain look and it has a certain shape. And this stage, it has this, appearance of Uranus. So there's things within the coming 4 weeks, or at this part 3 weeks, that are meant to shake us up, to awaken us, to help us to see things in a different light. That's what Uranus does. It kind of brings in some, fresh air. There's a part of your life that is in the midst of being completely reinvented. If you're not sure, go to my show notes. I have something called Uranus and Taurus sign by sign, and that will tell you what part of your life is having this overhaul. If you are a Taurus, it's happening to you. But for Scorpio and Scorpio season, it really is taking place in the relationship department, and relationships, of course, come in many different shapes and sizes, not just romantic relationships. So something about this coming 3 weeks, or the week that we've had previously, we are learning or having to interact and to socialize and to connect with people in a different way. Kind of throw some Mercury retrograde on top of that, and we're kind of having to negotiate and work through a lot of different things. So we're kind of getting a little bit of a workout this Scorpio season. So just checking in the comments. Yeah, so let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're negotiating this Scorpio season. It's a time when we have to honor the natural world and all of its various cycles. So here, at least in New York City, the trees are turning, the leaves are falling, it's autumn. It's a beautiful fall day today here in New York City, and the world is in a state of decay. And so we prepare for the coming colder months. We prepare for the winter. So this is, we've got this Taurus new moon next week. So we're gathering resources. We're kind of getting what we need, Taurus, full moon. And that's this kind of interplay between the Scorpio and the Taurus. While we are in Scorpio season, which tends to be a time about, dare I say, death. I know that word's a little bit of a anxiety-prone word, but Taurus is a sign that reminds Scorpio that it still has to live, it has to prepare and to create space for new life. So anyway, it was so good to connect with you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. I see that my very, very good friend Marina is on the live feed. She's going to be at my event on November 12th. Here in Manhattan with her crystal, Satera Minerals. Follow Satera Minerals on Facebook. They do these really great Facebook live feeds where you can buy crystals. This is perfect for that Taurus full moon. So yes, it's definitely Scorpio season. It's not quite my birthday yet. Mine's on the 17th, so I'm at the end of Scorpio. So I'll do a Facebook live the day after my birthday, and I'll just make sure there's balloons and cake and all that stuff. So it's in general kind of a quiet week. Like I said, those are the two big things that Mars square Pluto, Saturn sextile Neptune. But again, we're a week away from the full moon. So thank you all for joining me live. Sorry about the retrograde hiccup earlier. I'm just happy to have finally solved my mic issue. I just plugged the computer directly into the router. No Wi-Fi. What a concept. So thank you all for joining me live. Thank you those who are watching me on the replay. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Facebook if you don't already. I'm going to put this live feed on my YouTube channel. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, Empowering Astrology. Of course, I'm available for consultations, and I love working with you all. And I see some of my clients here on the live feed. So I do appreciate you. I appreciate you working with me and helping, or at least allowing me to be a part of your transformation journey. This is the stuff that this Scorpio lives for. So have a wonderful week. Use Mars square Pluto to your advantage. Give it an outlet. Go to the gym, do something physical, but don't forget to really spend some time with using the creative vision of Saturn sextile Neptune to bring your visions into reality. So thank you all. Have a wonderful week, and we will check in with each other next Monday. Bye.